Before this video starts, I just want to give a massive shout out to all my channel members. If you want to receive a shout out, then become a channel member today and you'll be shown on screen like all these other channel members here. Anyways, enjoy the video. On December 21st, version 13.1 dropped in the Japanese version and dropped on January 30th for the other versions. This update contains a lot of content, and I want to talk about everything that was added in this version. Since we have loads to cover, all I ask is if you enjoyed this update analysis, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment down below what was the most exciting thing about this update was for you. Anyways, we have loads to cover. All of the new units added here will be discussed at their level 30 stats. Before I get to discussing the new units, I want to discuss a new ability that was added to the Battle Cats, this being the Conjure ability. Some units gain a special Conjure ability, a one-time use ability that has various effects depending on the summoner. The way you use the Conjure is whenever a unit who has the Conjure ability is on the field, their icon will have an OK symbol. Clicking the unit icon will conjure a spirit, and the spirit's ability will trigger. A spirit will spawn 150 range behind the Conjurer unless the summoner is behind the base. If the Conjurer is behind the base, then it will spawn in front of the cat base instead. The spirit is considered a unique unit and will contribute to the cat limit, so you can't use one if the cat limit is reached. The summon isn't instantly triggerable, as you have to wait 15 frames or half a second before being able to use the spirit. Also, you are unable to have multiple units with the Conjure ability on the field at once, so you have to wait until the original Conjurer is dead before being allowed to send out the same unit again. One last thing to know is that every spirit has a 100% dodge chance, meaning they won't be able to die. Now for our first actual new unit is Master of Mind Catocrates, who is the first legend unit of Zero Legends and is based on ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. This unit has a standing range of 250, but has an Omni Strike of negative 400 to 400 range. They have a 30% chance to freeze angel enemies for 2 seconds. This unit also has two new abilities that were added into the game. The first is Sage Slayer, an ability I will touch on later when I get to discussing the new Sage subtrait. The second, which I'll cover now, is his Conjuring ability. Socrates' spirit deals 45,900 damage, has a massive 800 range, and a 100% chance to weaken all enemy types for 6.67 seconds or 8 seconds against treasure traits. The unit itself is somewhat of a mixed bag. The rather short standing range and high speed can get them into awkward situations where they may push way closer to the enemy than planned. Their Omni Strike can help hit enemies like Sleipnir and Calamaria, but without melee stepping stones, this unit suffers greatly. If properly supported, this unit could put in decent work. The main issue with Socrates is that there is another, much cheaper and spammable Angel Crowd Control unit who has the exact same standing range. However, Sanzo only slows, so both of them can work extremely well together thanks to their abilities not overlapping for enemies like Borifem. This unit has many flaws, but I wouldn't call it the worst legend unit. Speaking of legends, a new legend rare is added in this version for Uberfest. This unit is based on a creator deity of Japanese myth who, along with his sister wife Izanami, created the Japanese archipelago. They deal insane damage against every trait outside of trait list and have a multi-hit that's split like Nala's. Their ranges go from 1 to 351, 350 to 575, and 575 to 800. They have a standing range of 350 and are also freeze and wave immune, and join Ritual St. Casley as being the second Uberfest unit to be curse immune. At level 30, they deal 153,000 damage per multi-hit against treasureless traits and deal 183.6k damage against treasure traits. They have a pretty good health stat of 125.8k health with 3 knockbacks, giving them good survivability. Izanagi also has a summon, dealing 45.9k damage and slowing all enemies for 4.33 seconds or 5.2 seconds against treasure traits. It also knocks back any enemy it hits. This legend rare is easily one of the best, if not the best, due to their sheer damage output, having 25k DPS against most enemies across a wide range of areas. However, there is one major catch to this unit. This unit has single targeting. This means that they won't be hitting everything on the field, so in levels that feature a ton of weak peons or support can make it hard for him to deal damage against their main targets. An Uber who deals with a similar issue is Balrog, who struggles in some stages due to having a hard time getting to their target, but just like Balrog, in stages where you can make a path for Izanagi, he will demolish any enemy you are fighting. Next is a new egg unit added for the Lunar New Year event, this being Lion Dance Cat. This unit is strong against traitless and red enemies, has a 50% chance to weaken for 4 seconds against traitless or 4.8 seconds against red enemies, knockback immunity, and is a behemoth slayer. On paper, this unit looks like to be an okay mid-game unit, having a good standing range of 300 allows them to outrange many enemies, including some mid-rangers like Arost, the Island and Mohawk family, and almost every non-red boss enemy in the game. However, few things hold this unit back a bit, the biggest of which is their single targeting. This one factor alone makes them difficult to utilize due to the fact that they will have a hard time reaching the mid-ranged enemies. Against behemoths in general, this unit's niche is practically null and void because of Courier Cat, a unit who only costs half the price to evolve and performs against red enemies significantly better, along with dealing with even the traitless behemoth enemies that this dragon can also fight. If this unit had area attack, then I think it would have complemented Courier extremely well, but their single targeting makes this unit worse in basically every way compared to Courier when at least dealing with red enemies. This unit can still work decently well as an anti-traitless unit, especially since those are hard to come by for when you get this unit. Seeing as Courier only costs half the stones to hatch their egg, to hatch this egg, you need 10 purple and red behemoth stones. The last unit is one from a collab that hasn't been in the game for years. Sadly, this collab isn't found in the international releases, but since this was added into the Japanese version of 13.1, I will cover them here anyways. This being Soul de Rocker from Metal Slug Defense. This unit also has a wide-reaching multi-hit, the first hit being from negative 150 to 450, the second spanning from negative 300 to 300 range, and the last one being from negative 599 to 1 range ahead of them. This unit also deals massive damage against red, angel, and alien enemies, while also having Colossus Slayer. This unit can deal a great amount of damage from their first 2 ranges against many of their targets. However, their third range doesn't really matter too much outside of stages where this guy gets warped ahead or in levels with his targets and zombies. This unit is meant to be a good counter against Baron Seal, where their first hit at level 30 will deal 163,000 damage. Due to the enemy makeup of the Baron Seal stages, this unit works extremely well thanks to also being able to target the various angels and aliens present. A good nuker for their traits and a super useful ally against Baron Seal. In this update, there are 4 new true forms, all of which are from the Metal Slug collab. The first is Huge Hermit, who gains a 30% boost to their health, black targeting, and warp immunity. Sadly for the giant crab, these new additions don't really help them out. Their black targeting isn't all that great, since this unit doesn't have near the offensive or defensive output to deal with this trait, especially since they still have that very small range of 166. The warp immunity also doesn't really give this crustacean any help either. For what little this unit gains, this true form doesn't really help it at all. To true form this unit, you need an epic cat fruit and 3 blue and green behemoth stones. Now unlike Huge Hermit, Jupiter King actually gets a very good true form. This unit gains an 80% boost to their health, going from 76,500 to 137,700 health. They also gain a 100% chance to break barriers, and biggest of them all, a 100% chance to spawn a level 1 surge from 400 to 700 range. This surge area gives them a massive DPS boost, going from a meh 4.7k to a pretty good 9.4k DPS. This allows them to put out good offensive pressure, especially in alien stages in which they can also slow and knock back. Also, with the addition of Barrier Breaker, they can now more reliably fight starred aliens. The boost to their health is also nice, allowing them to survive for longer. Unlike Huge Hermit, this true form is much more worth the cost, and that said cost is easier to get. To true form Jupiter King, you need an epic cat fruit and 3 blue and yellow cat fruit. Now for the Uber with the singular addition. General Morden gains traitless targeting, allowing him to be resistant to another trait and having a 40% chance to knock them back. This unit works fine for when you lack other options, but once you beat the Aqua Realms, there really isn't much else you will get from this unit from their new niche. While Morden has a higher standing range, he has a much worse offensive output than Gigando and isn't that much tankier. Gigando also has extra add-ons that make Morden kinda pointless. If you want to unlock this true form, you need a yellow behemoth stone and 3 red and blue cat fruit. The last unit to gain a true form is Haido, who simply gains additional stats and a cost reduction that makes him a pretty cheap anti-floating Uber. They gain a 16% boost to their health, a 17% boost to their attack, and a cost reduction from 5,775 cents to 3,525 cents to send out. This unit's previous stats did not justify their high summon cost, but now with the slight buff to their stats, along with the fact that they are much cheaper now, means that they could be a solid anti-floating unit. 210 effective HP with an effective 10k DPS for that cost is pretty good, and they can knock back floating enemies half the time. If you want to get a relatively cheap anti-floating uber true form with the pretty good stats in the mid game, I'd get the true form. To true form high though, you need an epic cat fruit along with 3 green and yellow cat fruit. Seeing as ultra forms are here to stay, we can expect to get one every update or so. This time, Cat 8 Behemoth receives an ultra form called Cat 10 Gigapult. They gain a 75% boost to their attack, relic targeting, their weaken chance going from 50 to 100%, a decrease in their blind spot going from 150 to 725 attacking range to 100 to 725 range. Lastly, they gain toxic and curse immunity. While I have a whole video here discussing my thoughts on this unit's true and ultra form, I'll give a short recap of my thoughts here. The new targeting makes them an excellent option against relic enemies, as they can deal good damage and effectively perma-weaken relic enemies. Their blind spot is so small that the only enemies that can squeeze into it are one-horn variants, some cyclones, and Gabriel. That's how insignificant it is. This ultra form makes them a premier anti-relic unit and helps them deal with many zombie enemies that don't burrow. To unlock this ultra form, you need 1 purple behemoth gem, 6 red behemoth stones, 2 green behemoth stones, and 3 elder cat fruit seeds. Two units gain talents this update, these being the one-hit wonders and Miscellaneous Passalan. Both gain standard attack and defense talents. First is one-hit wonders, who gain Savage Blow, Toxic, and Freeze immunity. Their Savage Blow lets them deal 3 times the damage for 20% of the times they attack. This unit has a somewhat long attack cycle, so this Savage Blow doesn't activate too often, but thanks to this unit's good attack stats against their targets, I would recommend maxing this out if you're willing to treat it as bonus damage. Toxic immunity is to help out their Zolo matchup, but isn't too needed if you have other toxic immunes. Last is Freeze immune, which isn't too needed either since the only angel and zombie enemies that could freeze include Chick-fil-A, Zurziel, and Zional. I'd say this unit's talents are pretty good, but due to their immunities being niche, the only one I would really recommend is Savage Blow, unless you struggle that much with the enemies I mentioned previously. Miscellaneous Passalan gains Strong against Relic, a 100% chance to survive, and Toxic immunity. None of this unit's talents really help it out at all, as most relic enemies tend to be aggressive pushers. This talent is really only useful if you're in a desperate need for a unit to snipe Loris. If this unit gets touched by any toxic enemy, the unit is probably dead anyways, and the survive doesn't help it keep it away from most enemies thanks to their really large blind spot. I'd avoid investing in this unit's talents. One new unit gains ultra talents in this update, this being Joyful Nurse Cat. She gains a 100% chance to mini-surge from 300 to 900 range, a cost reduction down to 3900, and biggest of them all, Sage Slayer. While mini-surge and cost down don't do much for her, her Sage Slayer is massive. I guess now would be a good time to explain what a Sage enemy and what a Sage Slayer is. Sages are a new subtrait of enemy added into this version, and they work like Colossus or Behemoth enemies. Sages, however, are distinct in the fact that the subtrait actually buffs the enemy directly. Any enemy with the Sage attribute has a 70% reduction in weaken, freeze, slow, and curse duration, and the knockback is reduced by 50%. If these numbers sound familiar, this is because these are the exact same values as resist talents. However, you can bypass these debuff resistances with units that have the Sage Slayer ability. Sage Slayers will also have double the health against Sage enemies and deal 1.2 times the damage against Sage enemies. With that out of the way, I can say that if you can, I would highly recommend getting Joyful Nurse to level 60 if you struggle against the one Sage enemy that exists right now, as it makes them much easier to fight. Speaking of which, let's discuss the new enemies added into this update. The main enemy that was added into this update is Master of Mind Socrates. This enemy has a massive health pool of 4 million, deals a huge amount of damage, and has a very potent Omni Strike. This floating Sage enemy is nearly impossible to fully stop thanks to the debuff resistances given by the Sage subtrait. He also has a 30% chance to freeze your units for 2 seconds. While this time isn't the best on the unit, this time is deadly on his enemy counterpart, easily grinding many units down to a halt. The second enemy added is a part of the Metal Slug collab, being the Sol de Rocker, who appears in the Metal Slug Gauntlet. This enemy is never fought at 100% strength, but on screen are this enemy's weakest and strongest appearances. Over time, this enemy gets more and more difficult to face. Last is Dragon Doge, who is the New Year's enemy added. This unit is like Doge Dark, but gets stronger the more you face it over the series of their levels. The new subchapter added is the Garden of Wilted Thoughts. No new UL stars are added into this update. The first level is Uneducated Sophists, which contains 3 Cyberfaces, 2 Gobbles, 5 Hater Bas, and 3 Zooches. Then we have a Life of Antithesis, containing Ginger Snaches, Say Piggy the Seconds, Reynard, Johnny Leon, Hacky, and Goku Rako. In the Forest of Irony, we have 2 Boars, a Borofim, Crockley, and Ribbo. Aimless Dialogue contains an Axolotl, Zamel, Death Cory, and Red Cyclone. Slanderous Wasteland contains Zolos, Relic Doges, Mistress Celeboodles, a Lord Gravy, and an Amost. Last and easily the most difficult stage is Adherence to Virtue. This stage only contains Doge, Darks, and Socrates. However, Socrates' pushing power, along with the limited sources of cash, can make stalling him extremely difficult, to the point where it's nearly impossible without boosted units and Ubers. This update adds 10 new stages with the addition of the Relic Citadel. The first 2 stages reward a cat ticket, stages 3 to 7 reward a Legend Cat's Eye, floor 8 rewards a rare ticket, and floors 9 and 10 reward a Dark Cat's Eye. Floor 1 contains some Relic Doges and an Old Horn. Floor 2 contains Sorrel, Loris, and Otham. Floor 3 contains Relic Doge, Sorrel, and Loki. Floor 4 contains Old Horn and Amost. Floor 5 contains Sorrel, Otham, Loris, and Mr. Puffington. Floor 6 contains Relic Doge, Otham, Old Horn, and Relic Bun Bun. Floor 7 contains Relic Doge, Sorrel, Amost, and Golem Sunfish. Floor 8 contains Haniwanwan, Sorrel, Loris, Relic Doge, and Primeval Cyclone. Floor 9 contains Otham, Old Horn, Mr. Puffington, and Mega Majo. Lastly is Floor 10, which contains Sorrel, Relic Doge, Haniwanwan, Golem Sunfish, and Ibalujan. There is a gauntlet for the Metal Slug collab. It contains the Mars People, Marco, and SV001, Huge Hermit, Donald Morden, and Sol de Rocker. On screen are the weakest and strongest versions of the stage and its stage rewards. Just like the Christmas event, there are stages that added Behemoth Stones for score rewards. The first stage rewards a red and purple Behemoth Stone. The second stage rewards 2 blue, red, and purple Behemoth Stones. The third stage rewards 2 green, red, and purple Behemoth Stones. The last stage rewards a yellow Behemoth Stone along with 2 red and purple Behemoth Stones. However, it should be noted that these stages aren't present in the international version as of this video. There is 3 new stages featuring various Doge variants. The first stage rewards 3 super rare Cat's Eyes, the second stage rewards 3 uber rare Cat's Eyes, and the third stage rewards 3 legend Cat's Eyes. Every year, the top 5 enemies seen in 2023 are dropped. At number 5, we have Sir Seal. At number 4, we have BB Bunny. At number 3, we have Gabriel. At number 2, we have those guys. And the most seen enemy in 2023 was Doge Dark. Also, the bonus stage here has you face a Tiger Doge. For the miscellaneous changes and additions, there really isn't much. The big thing being Sage enemies, Sage Slayers, and Conjures, but I've already discussed them so I won't bring them up again. There was 1 new Meow Medal, and this is for unlocking Socrates from his stage. Other things added were a new cat combo called Hunting Club, featuring Huntress Terran and Ururan Wolf. This boosts the slow duration by 10%. Lastly is new user rank rewards, in which user rank 21,600 gives 3 Brick Z, 21,700 gives 3 Feather Z, and 21,800 gives 3 Coal Z. I figured I would add this small section for any players of the English version for my update analysis videos to let them know of any important information for things added and not yet added. Izanagi and Superfest are present, and the banner features both of the Little Valkyries. New Mercstoria collab content from JP version 12.7 is present. The new Miku collab from version 12.7 is still not present, along with the Metal Slug stuff not being present. Last important thing is that there was a bug that prevented players from getting charms for the Lunar New Year capsule since they changed the drop rewards from the old charms added in 11.2 to the new ones added in 13.1. These new charms would have allowed players to get Lion Dance Cat, who is not available currently in the English version. This bug was quickly fixed and players are going to receive 30 cat food for this bug. This update once again changes the game by the addition of the Conjure ability. Allowing a one-time use unit to pull off a wild ability opens the door for many strategies in which you can utilize the many aspects of each unique spirit to make a fight much easier. The one thing I will talk about is the Socrates fight, which has got to be one of the hardest bosses ever added into the Battle Cats. If you're doing it uberless, then the stage is nearly impossible unless you have an extremely boosted octopus. The fact that they made one of the few reliable Ubers for this level locked behind Dark Cat's eyes is a bit iffy, but they'll probably add Sage Creep at some point down the road. How do you guys feel about this update? Well, let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, be sure to give this update analysis video a like, and if you enjoy what you see here, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as this lets me know I should continue this sort of content. Also, shout out to the following channel members: Something Something YouTube and Potato King for being gold members, and Flinch BLT and Battle Cats and BC Clips for being silver members. If you want to receive a shout out like these channel members here, then become a silver member or higher today. Becoming a channel member supports what I do in a way that helps keep the lights on, and channel members receive an exclusive role in my Discord server, for which you can find a link to in the description down below. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day.